The massive Vorthak warship hung in space like a dark metal mountain. Its black hull stretched for 3 miles, covered in weapon ports that could destroy entire cities. Commander Thaxavel stood on the bridge, his 8-foot frame towering over the control panels. His 4 arms moved across the displays with practiced ease, studying the planet below. "Another primitive world," he said to his second-in-command. "This should take no more than 6 hours." The planet looked peaceful from orbit. Green continents, blue oceans, and white clouds covered its surface. The humans called it Kepler 442b, but the Vorthak had already renamed it Conquest Site 847. It would join the list of worlds that had fallen to the 7th Assault Legion. Thaxavel felt proud as he looked at his fleet. 50 warships filled the space around the planet. Each ship carried weapons that could crack mountains and shields that stopped any attack. The 7th Legion had never lost a battle in 300 years. They had conquered 47 star systems without a single defeat. "Sir, we are detecting industrial activity on the surface," reported the scanner operator. "Population estimated at 50,000 beings. No orbital defenses detected. No military vessels in system." Thaxavel nodded. It was always the same. The primitives never learned. They spread across the galaxy like insects, building their little colonies on distant worlds. They never prepared for war. They never expected the Vorthak to find them. "Begin standard procedure," Thaxavel ordered. "Send the surrender demand in all galactic languages. Prepare bombardment systems. Ready the landing forces." Down on the planets, Surface, Chief Engineer Dae-hyun was having a normal morning. He walked through the mining facility, checking the huge machines that dug precious metals from the ground. The colony had been running for 5 years now, and everything worked smoothly. The miners were good people, mostly families who wanted a fresh start on a new world. Dae-hyun stopped at the main power station. The fusion reactor hummed quietly, providing clean energy for the entire colony. He made notes on his tablet about routine maintenance. Everything looked normal. Then his tablet started beeping. "Dae-hyun, you need to get to the communication center right now," came the voice of Hee-jin, the colony's communication specialist. She sounded worried. Dae-hyun ran across the colony's main square. Children played in the gardens while their parents worked. Nobody knew that death hung in the sky above them. He reached the communication building and found Hee-jin staring at her screens with wide eyes. "What is it?" Dae-hyun asked. "Look at this," Hee-jin pointed to her display. "I'm picking up energy signatures in orbit, lots of them. These aren't natural signals." Dae-hyun looked at the screen. Lines of data scrolled past, showing energy readings that made no sense. "Are you sure these are real?" "I've checked everything 3 times, Hee-jin said. "There are at least 50 large objects in orbit around our planet. They appeared about an hour ago." Dae-hyun felt cold fear in his stomach. The colony had no military. Earth was too far away to send help. If hostile aliens had found them, they were on their own. "Get Colony Administrator Sung-min," Dae-hyun said, "and wake up everyone on the emergency contact list. We need to talk." 20 minutes later, the colony's leadership sat around a table in the emergency meeting room. Sung-min looked tired and worried. He had been running the colony for 3 years and had never dealt with anything like this. "Show them what you found," Dae-hyun said to Hee-jin. Hee-jin put the energy readings on the main screen. 50 large objects in orbit. They're definitely artificial. Power signatures suggest advanced technology, much more advanced than ours. Kaite, the chief of engineering solutions, studied the data. "These energy levels are incredible. If these are weapons, they could destroy our entire colony in minutes." "What do we do?" asked So Young, the colony's physicist. "We have no weapons, no shields, no way to fight back." Sung-min rubbed his forehead. "Maybe they're peaceful. Maybe they just want to trade, or—" His words were cut off by a loud beeping from Hee-jin's equipment. She quickly put on her headphones and listened. "It's a transmission," she said. "Broadcasting on multiple frequencies. It's a surrender demand." The room fell silent. Hee-jin translated the message from the alien language. The beings in orbit called themselves the Vorthak Empire. They claimed ownership of the planet. The humans had 1 hour to surrender completely or face total destruction. 1 hour, Sung-min repeated. "They want us to give up everything we've built here." "What choice do we have?" asked Yu-jin, the demolitions expert who handled mining explosives. "They have 50 warships. We have mining equipment." Kite stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the colony looked peaceful. The fusion plant provided power. The factories made tools and equipment. The farms grew food. 50,000 people had made this place their home. "You know what?" Kite said. "I don't think we should surrender." Everyone stared at him. "Kite, be realistic," Sungmin said. "We can't fight a space navy with mining tools." "Maybe not," Kite said. "But we're human. We're the species that figured out how to fly by watching birds. We split the atom to make power. We turned lightning into communications. We've been solving impossible problems for thousands of years." Dae-Yun felt something stir in his chest. "What are you thinking?" Kite smiled. "I'm thinking about something my grandfather used to say. He was an engineer too. He said that the best solutions come from the worst situations. These aliens think we're primitives. They think our technology is weak. Maybe that's an advantage." "How?" So Young asked. "They expect us to fight like they do," Kite said, "with energy weapons and shields and standard military tactics. But what if we don't? What if we fight like humans?" Nam Ho, the mining foreman, understood first. "You want to use industrial equipment as weapons." "Not just weapons," Kite said. "Everything. Our power systems, our manufacturing, our mining equipment, our waste processing, our food production, everything we have." Hye-Jin looked at her screens again. "The surrender deadline is in 50 minutes. "Then we better get to work," Kite said. "Hye-Jin, send them a response. Tell them thanks for the warning, and that we'll be ready." "Ready for what?" Sungmin asked. "To show them why humans don't stay conquered," Kite said. The next hour changed everything. Kite organized the engineering teams. Dae-Hyun modified the power systems. So-Young started working on something she called metamaterial absorption panels. Nam-Ho gathered his mining crews and began moving equipment. Yu-Jin looked at her explosive supplies and started making calculations. Taemin, who ran the colony's sanitation systems, suddenly found his waste processing chemicals very interesting. Junseo, a maintenance worker, began welding metal sculptures in the main square. As the deadline approached, Hye-Jin monitored alien communications. "They're confused by our response," she reported. "They keep asking what we meant by, 'we'll be ready.'" "Let them wonder," Kite said. He looked around at his people. Engineers, miners, farmers, teachers, mechanics. None of them were soldiers. But they were human, and humans had never accepted impossible odds. In orbit, Commander Thaxavel prepared to fire. The primitives had refused to surrender. They would learn the price of defying the Vorthak Empire. He gave the order to begin bombardment. Energy beams powerful enough to melt mountains shot down from the sky. They struck the colony's power station, the communications center, and the main factory. Thaxavel waited for the explosions, the fires, the desperate calls for mercy. Instead, his scanners showed something impossible. The human structures were absorbing the energy, not reflecting it, not deflecting it, but drinking it like water. The colony's power output was actually increasing. "Sir," the scanner operator said, "their energy production just doubled." Thaxavel stared at the readings. In 300 years of conquest, nothing like this had ever happened. "Increase bombardment power," he ordered. More energy beams struck the planet. The human colony absorbed them all. Its power output tripled. "Sir," came another report, "we're receiving a transmission from the surface." Thaxavel listened to the translated message. The human called Kite was speaking again. "Thank you for the extra power. We really needed it. Please continue." For the first time in his long military career, Commander Thaxavel felt uncertain. These humans were not acting like any enemy he had ever faced. They were not acting like any sane beings should act. "Prepare the landing forces," he ordered. "If energy weapons won't work, we'll take the planet by force." On the surface, Kite watched the energy absorption panels that So-Young had designed. They were working perfectly, turning alien weapons into human power. He smiled and turned to his communication equipment. "Hye-Jin, send another message to our friends in orbit," he said. "Tell them we're ready for round 2. The first day of the impossible war was about to begin. Commander Thaxavel had been a soldier for over 200 years. He had seen the surrender of gas-breathing methoids, the collapse of the crystal-bodied silicons, and the submission of dozens of other species. But he had never seen anything. Like the response from this human colony, the energy bombardment should have turned their settlement into melted slag. Instead, their power output had tripled. His weapons officer reported that the humans were actually requesting more bombardment. The tactical computer had no protocols for this situation. "Sir, incoming transmission from the planet's surface," reported the communications officer. "Put it through," Thaxavel said. A human face appeared on the screen. The being looked young and had dark hair. It wore simple work clothes and seemed completely calm. Behind him, other humans moved around carrying tools and equipment. "Hello," the human said through the translation system. "My name is Kite. I'm the Chief of Engineering Solutions for this colony. Thank you for the energy donation. We really needed it for our projects." Thaxavel felt confused. "You are supposed to surrender. We have destroyed your power systems." Kite smiled. "Actually, you've improved them. Those energy beams you sent down are being converted into usable power by our metamaterial absorption panels. My colleague So Young designed them for radiation protection, but they work great for weapon absorption, too." "That is impossible," Thaxavel said. "No known technology can absorb directed energy weapons." "Well, no previously known technology," Kite said. "But humans are pretty good at making new technology. We've had lots of practice." Thaxavel looked at his tactical displays. The human colony was indeed producing 3 times its normal power output. His weapons had somehow made the enemy stronger. "You will surrender now," Thaxavel said, "or we will land our forces and take your colony by force." Kite nodded. "That's your choice, of course, but I should warn you that we've been busy down here. My people have been working on some projects. We call it Plan B." "Plan B?" "Plan A was hoping you'd be friendly visitors who wanted to trade recipes or discuss philosophy," Kite said. "Plan B is what we do when Plan A doesn't work out. We're humans. We always have a Plan B." The transmission ended. Thaxavel stared at the empty screen. In all his years of conquest, no primitive species had ever spoken to him like that. They usually begged for mercy or screamed threats. They never offered polite warnings about their backup plans. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked his second-in-command. "Deploy the landing forces," Thaxavel said. 10,000 soldiers in full combat armor. Standard assault formation. These primitives will learn to fear the Vorthak Empire. On the planet's surface, Kite turned away from the communication equipment. Around him, the colony buzzed with activity. Humans ran everywhere, carrying strange equipment and working on mysterious projects. Heejin monitored alien communications from her station. "They're preparing to land ground forces," she reported. "Looks like about 10,000 soldiers." "How long until they reach the surface?" asked Daehyun. 2 hours, Heejin said. "Their ships are moving into landing formation now." So Young looked up from her workstation. She had been modifying the metamaterial panels all night. "The energy absorption system is ready. We now have 5 times our normal power output, thanks to their bombardment." Namho wiped grease from his hands. "The mining equipment is ready, too. We've moved the big haulers into position around the landing zone." Yujin checked her explosive calculations one more time. "The special surprises are planted and ready. I just need someone to trigger them at the right moment." Junseo tested his welding equipment. "The plaza project is almost finished. It looks like art, but it's actually a giant-shaped charge designed to create a specific effect." Taemin grinned as he looked at his chemical tanks. "The sanitation systems are loaded with special foam. Industrial-strength adhesive mixed with expanding polymer. It hardens in 30 seconds and sticks to everything." Kite nodded. "Excellent work, everyone. Remember, we're not trying to kill these aliens. We're trying to make them go away." "There's a difference." "What if they don't go away?" asked Sung Min. "What if they keep fighting no matter what we do?" "Then, we move to Plan C," Kite said. "What's Plan C?" "We haven't thought of Plan C yet," Kite said, "but we will. Humans are very good at making new plans." 2 hours later, the Vorthak landing ships descended through the atmosphere. Each ship carried 500 elite soldiers in powered armor. Their shields could stop energy weapons, their armor could resist physical attacks, and their weapons could cut through steel like paper. The ships landed in the colony's main plaza, exactly where the humans expected them to. The plaza was a large, open area surrounded by buildings. It seemed like the perfect place for an assault force to establish a landing zone. The ship doors opened, and Vorthak soldiers poured out. They were massive beings, 8 feet tall and covered in black metal armor. Energy weapons glowed in their hands. Their movements were precise and coordinated, the result of centuries of military training. The plaza appeared empty except for a single human. Junseo stood near the center of the open space, wearing work clothes and safety goggles. He was welding what looked like a large metal sculpture. Sparks flew from his torch as he worked. The Vorthak soldiers formed a defensive circle around their ships. Their leader, Captain Vextar, activated his external speakers. "Human, you will surrender immediately," his translated voice boomed across the plaza. "Resistance is futile. The Vorthak Empire claims this world." Junseo looked up from his welding. "Sorry, what did you say? I can't hear you over the torch." Captain Vextar moved closer. "I said surrender, primitive. Your people are defeated." Junseo turned off his welding torch and lifted his safety goggles. "Oh, surrender. Right. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Also, you might want to move." "Move? Why would we?" Junseo's welding had been the final trigger for Yujin's carefully placed charges. But these weren't explosive charges designed to kill. They were chemical charges designed to transform. The plaza floor erupted in a massive chemical reaction. But instead of an explosion, the ground became something else entirely. The solid concrete and metal surface turned into a perfectly smooth, frictionless material. Industrial lubricant mixed with polymer compounds spread across every surface. 10,000 Vorthak soldiers in heavy-powered armor suddenly found themselves standing on a surface with zero friction. The massive warriors, trained for centuries in combat, began slipping and sliding like children on ice. Captain Vextar tried to fire his weapon, but he couldn't maintain his balance. His shot went wild, hitting the sky instead of the human. Around him, elite soldiers crashed into each other as they tried to walk on the impossible surface. "What is this?" Captain Vextar demanded as he slid helplessly across the plaza. "Industrial accident," Junseo said cheerfully. "Happens all the time in mining operations. Very slippery stuff. We should have put up warning signs." Before the Vorthak could adapt to the frictionless surface, Taimin and his sanitation crew arrived. They rode on wheeled platforms designed for waste collection, but now they carried tanks full of industrial adhesive foam. The humans wore special boots with magnetic soles that let them move normally on the modified surface. "Special delivery," Taimin called out as his team sprayed expanding foam over the sliding aliens. The foam stuck to everything it touched and began hardening immediately. Vorthak soldiers found themselves trapped in rapidly solidifying polymer that held them as firmly as concrete. Their powerful armor, designed to resist energy weapons and projectiles, was completely helpless against industrial adhesive. Captain Vextar tried to cut through the foam with his energy weapon, but the beam just made the polymer harder. "This is impossible," he shouted. "We are the elite 7th Legion. We have conquered 47 star systems." "That's very impressive," Junseo said as he began welding another sculpture. "But you've never fought industrial maintenance workers before. We're really good at dealing with problems." Within 30 minutes, half the Vorthak landing force was trapped in hardened foam. The other half had managed to retreat to their ships, but they couldn't take off because the landing zone was now covered in frictionless material. In orbit, Commander Thaxvel watched the impossible scene through his ship's cameras. His elite soldiers, the finest warriors in the galaxy, had been defeated by janitors with cleaning supplies. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "Captain Vextar is requesting immediate support. He says the humans have weaponized their municipal infrastructure." "Weaponized their what?" Thaxvel asked. "Their waste management systems, sir, and their industrial maintenance equipment, and apparently their art projects." Thaxvel stared at the screen showing his soldiers trapped in foam and sliding helplessly around a plaza. This was not how wars were supposed to work. Enemies were supposed to use weapons, not cleaning supplies. They were supposed to fight with honor, not turn their plumbing into military equipment. "Send reinforcements," he ordered. "Deploy the heavy assault units, and find out how these primitives are doing this." On the surface, Kaite received reports from around the colony. "Phase 1 complete," he announced. "Half their landing force is neutralized. No human casualties reported. They're sending more soldiers, Hyejin reported from her monitoring station. Heavier equipment this time. Good. Commander Thaxavel watched the tactical display with growing frustration. Red markers showed where his soldiers were trapped in hardened foam. Blue markers indicated the strange frictionless zones where his warriors could not maintain footing. Never in 300 years of conquest had he seen anything like this. "Sir, the heavy assault units are ready for deployment," reported his weapons officer. 2,000 soldiers in enhanced armor with anti-personnel weapons. They request permission to use lethal force. Thaxavel considered this. The standard protocols called for overwhelming force when resistance was encountered. But these humans were not fighting like any enemy he had studied. They seemed to treat warfare as an engineering problem rather than a military conflict. "Deploy the heavy units," he ordered, "but maintain communication discipline. I want to understand how these primitives are achieving these impossible results." The second wave of Vorthak forces descended in armored shuttles. These soldiers wore heavier armor and carried weapons designed to destroy hardened targets. Their leaders had studied the footage from the first landing and believed they understood the human tactics. Captain Morden led the heavy assault unit. He had fought in 17 major campaigns and never lost a battle. As his shuttle approached the landing zone, he addressed his soldiers through the communication system. "These primitives use industrial chemicals and friction modification," he announced. "We will land outside their prepared area and advance on foot. Our enhanced armor is resistant to chemical attacks. Victory will be achieved within 1 hour." The shuttles landed in a field outside the colony's main area. The ground here was normal dirt and grass, with no signs of human modification. Captain Morden felt confident as his soldiers formed up in standard assault formation. "Advance toward the human settlement," he ordered. "Maintain formation. Watch for chemical weapons and surface modifications." The Vorthak soldiers began marching across the field. Their heavy armor made deep prints in the soft earth, but their footing remained secure. For the first few minutes, everything proceeded according to plan. Then Dong-hyun and his mining crew arrived. The massive ore hauler appeared over a hill like a mechanical monster. It was designed to carry tons of raw asteroid material from the mining sites to the processing plants. The huge vehicle moved on tank-like treads and had a cargo bay the size of a building, but Namho and his team had modified it for a different purpose. Instead of carrying ore, the hauler now functioned as a kinetic artillery piece. Its cargo system had been converted into a magnetic rail launcher capable of accelerating chunks of dense metal to hypersonic speeds. "Target acquired," Dong-hyun reported over the radio. 2,000 Vorthak soldiers in standard formation. Range 3 kilometers. "Fire when ready," came Kitae's voice from the colony command center. The ore hauler's rail launcher activated with a sound like thunder. A chunk of asteroid material the size of a car shot out at nearly 20% of light speed. The projectile was not aimed at the alien soldiers. Instead, it struck the ground 50 meters in front of their formation. The impact created a crater, 30 meters wide, and sent a shockwave through the earth that knocked every Vorthak soldier flat. The enhanced armor that protected them from energy weapons and chemical attacks was useless against simple kinetic force applied through the ground. Captain Morden struggled to his feet, his armor's sensors reporting multiple system failures from the impact shock. Around him, his soldiers were slowly recovering from the unexpected attack. "Report!" he demanded. "What was that weapon?" "Unknown kinetic projectile, sir," his technical officer replied. "Appears to be a chunk of raw metal, accelerated to extreme velocity." "Impossible," Captain Morden said. "No primitive species has access to relativistic kinetic weapons." "Sir," another soldier pointed toward the horizon. "There are more of those vehicles approaching. 3 more ore haulers appeared on different hills around the field. Each one carried a modified rail launcher loaded with mining materials. But Jae Young and her crew had been busy with additional modifications. "Second shot, explosive payload," Jae Young reported. "Target is the ground beneath their formation." This time, the projectile contained a mixture of mining explosives and industrial chemicals. When it struck the Earth, it created not just a crater, but a chemical reaction that turned the soil into a bubbling, unstable mess. The Vorthak soldiers found themselves standing on ground that behaved like liquid. Their heavy armor, which had been an advantage, Now drag them down into the chemically modified Earth. Within minutes, half the assault force was stuck up to their waists in ground that refused to support their weight. This is Captain Morden requesting immediate support. He broadcast to the orbiting ships. The humans have turned the planet's surface into a weapon. In the colony command center, Kaite watched the battle through surveillance cameras. Excellent work, everyone. Phase 2 is proceeding as planned. The aliens are trying to call for air support, Heejin reported from her monitoring station. They want their ships to provide cover fire. Let them try, said So-Young. She had been working on her metamaterial panels throughout the battle. I've made some improvements to our energy absorption system. We can now redirect absorbed energy instead of just storing it. Minho looked up from his computer terminal. I've been analyzing their communication systems. Their tactical network uses quantum encryption, but there's something interesting about their AI coordination protocols. What did you find? Kaite asked. Their artificial intelligence systems are designed to process tactical data and coordinate unit movements, Minho explained, but they're not designed to handle unexpected data types. I think I can crash their network by feeding it information it doesn't know how to process. How? Minho grinned. Remember that collection of Earth music we brought with us? Electronic music, classical symphonies, rock and roll, jazz, everything humanity has ever created? Their AI will try to analyze it as tactical data. Do it, Kite said. Minho's fingers flew over his keyboard as he accessed the colony's communication systems. Within seconds, he was broadcasting the entire human musical database directly into the Vorthak tactical network. In orbit, Commander Thaxavel watched. His tactical displays suddenly fill with incomprehensible information. His ship's AI began analyzing thousands of hours of human music, trying to decode what it believed were enemy battle plans. Sir, his technical officer reported with confusion in his voice. Our tactical AI is reporting that the humans are using something called dubstep as a coordination protocol. It's trying to analyze the strategic implications of bass drops and sick beats. What does that mean? Thaxavel demanded. Unknown, sir. The AI is requesting additional processing power to decode the apparent complexity of human musical warfare. Strategies. Sir, another officer interrupted. Our communication network is experiencing massive system failures. The AI is using 90% of our computer capacity trying to understand something called Mozart's Symphony No. 40 in G minor. On the planet's surface, the trapped Vorthak soldiers faced a new problem. Seok Jin and his environmental team had been busy introducing Earth bacteria into the local ecosystem. These microscopic organisms, evolved on humanity's harsh home world, found alien technology absolutely delicious. Sir, Captain Morden's technical officer reported, our equipment is experiencing rapid degradation. Something is consuming our armor plating and weapon components. Captain Morden looked down at his armor and saw tiny holes appearing in the metal. The holes grew larger as he watched, as if something was eating the sophisticated alloys. Impossible, he said. Our armor is made from quantum-hardened materials. Nothing can consume it. Tell that to the bacteria, came a cheerful voice from nearby. Captain Morden turned to see a human woman approaching across the field. She wore simple work clothes and carried what appeared to be a medical kit. Despite being in the middle of a battlefield, she seemed completely calm. I'm Eun-jung, the woman said. I'm the colony's medical officer. I wanted to check if any of your soldiers need treatment. You are offering to treat enemy soldiers? Captain Morden asked. Of course, Eun-jung said. We're not trying to kill you. We just want you to leave. There's a difference. The bacteria consuming our equipment, Captain Morden said. You did this. Not me personally, Eun-jung said. That was Seok Jin's project. He introduced some Earth microorganisms into the environment. They're completely harmless to biological tissue, but they love eating refined metals, especially the exotic alloys you use in your technology, Captain. Morden watched more holes appear in his armor. How do we stop it? You can't, Eun-jung said. Once established, the bacterial colonies will consume any non-biological technology in the area. Your equipment will be completely dissolved within a few hours. But that's impossible. No species would create organisms that destroy technology? Eun-jung shrugged. We didn't create them. We just found them. Earth is a very hostile planet. We have bacteria that eat metal, acid that dissolves stone, and plants that grow through concrete. We've learned to work with these things because we had to. As if to prove her point, Seok Jin appeared carrying a spray tank filled with neutralizing solution. Medical Officer Yoon Jung, do you need me to stop the bacterial action around a... Commander Thaxavel stood in his private quarters, staring out at the planet below. For 300 years, the sight of a world under siege had filled him with satisfaction. The Vorthak Empire had brought order to dozens of star systems through the simple application of overwhelming force. But this human world was different. His tactical officers had spent the entire night analyzing the failed assault. Their reports made no sense. The humans had defeated 2 full assault waves without using a single conventional weapon. They had turned industrial equipment into artillery, municipal services into traps, and even bacteria into anti-technology. Weapons! Sir, came a voice through his communication system. Intelligence Officer Kexalon requests permission to brief you on human tactical analysis. Enter, Thaxavel said. Intelligence Officer Kexalon was smaller than most Vorthak, but had one of the sharpest tactical minds in the fleet. She had studied alien military doctrines for decades and could predict enemy behavior patterns with remarkable accuracy. But when she entered Thaxavel's quarters, she looked confused and frustrated. Commander, I have completed my analysis of human combat techniques, she reported. The results are unprecedented. Explain. Kexalon activated a holographic display showing the human colony. The humans are not following any known military doctrine. They appear to be treating warfare as an engineering challenge rather than a military conflict. What does that mean? Standard military thinking involves weapons, tactics, strategies, and objectives, Kexalon explained. Human thinking appears to involve problems, solutions, tools, and adaptations. They see our invasion force as a problem to be solved rather than an enemy to be defeated. Thaxavel studied the hologram. How do we counter this approach? That's the issue, sir. Our entire military doctrine is based on predicted enemy responses. We use overwhelming force because enemies retreat when faced with superior firepower. We use energy weapons because enemies surrender when their defenses are breached. We use standard tactics because they work against military opponents. But the humans are not responding as military opponents. They're responding as engineers, faced with a technical challenge. When we attacked their power systems, they converted our weapons into additional power sources. When we landed ground forces, they modified the landing zone to neutralize our tactical advantage. When we deployed heavy armor, they used industrial equipment to create kinetic weapons. Thaxavel felt a growing unease. What do you recommend? Sir, I believe we need to completely revise our approach. These humans are not thinking like soldiers, they're thinking like problem solvers. Every action we take becomes a new problem for them to solve, and they appear to be very good at finding solutions. Before Thaxavel could respond, his communication system activated. Commander, urgent message from Captain Morden on the surface. Put him through. Captain Morden's face appeared on the screen. His armor was patched with temporary repairs, and he looked exhausted. Behind him, other Vorthak soldiers worked to clean bacterial damage from their equipment. Sir, the humans have offered us food and medical supplies, he reported. They say we must be tired and hungry after 2 days of fighting. Food? Thaxavel asked. They want to feed us? Yes, sir. They brought hot meals and medical kits to our position. When we refused, they left the supplies and said they would check back later to see if we changed our minds. Thaxavel looked at Intelligence Officer Kexalon. Is this a known psychological warfare technique? Not in any database I can access, she replied. Feeding your enemies during active combat is unusual. Sir, Captain Morden continued, there's something else. The human medical officer examined several of our soldiers who were injured in the kinetic attacks. She says our injuries are completely treatable, but she recommends we seek proper medical attention soon. The enemy medic treated our soldiers? She said it was her professional obligation. She also gave us these. Captain Morden held up a small packet. Pain medication. She said the injuries from kinetic impacts can be very uncomfortable. Thaxavel closed the communication and turned to Kexalon. Explain this behavior. I cannot, sir. No known military Doctrine includes feeding and treating enemy soldiers during active combat operations. On the planet's surface, Wu Jin worked in her laboratory surrounded by samples of Vorthak armor and weapons. The aliens had left quite a bit of equipment behind during their retreats, and she had been studying the materials with great interest. Fascinating, she said to herself as she examined a piece of armor plating under her microscope. This quantum-hardened alloy is incredible. The molecular structure is unlike anything we've seen. Dae-hyun entered the laboratory carrying a cup of coffee. Any progress on understanding their technology? More than I expected, Wu Jin said. Their materials science is centuries ahead of ours in some areas, but there's a problem with their approach. What kind of problem? They've optimized everything for specific threats, Wu Jin explained. This armor is designed to resist energy, weapons, and explosive impacts. It's nearly indestructible against those attack types, but it's vulnerable to things they never considered. Like bacteria? Like bacteria, yes, but also like this. Wu Jin showed him a small vial of clear liquid. I've been working with some compounds from our industrial chemistry supplies. This mixture causes a molecular reaction in their armor alloy that makes it brittle. Dae-hyun examined the vial. How brittle? Watch this. Wu Jin took a small piece of Vorthak armor and applied a drop of the compound. Within seconds, the quantum-hardened metal became so fragile that she could crumble it with her fingers. That's incredible, Dae-hyun said. How did you figure this out? Trial and error, Wu Jin said, and a basic principle of material science. The more specialized something becomes, the more vulnerable it is to unexpected stresses. Their armor is perfect against energy weapons, but has never been tested against basic chemical reactions. Meanwhile, Insu and his mechanical team had been busy in the colony's main workshop. Scattered around the workspace were pieces of captured Vorthak weapons and equipment. The aliens had abandoned quite a bit of gear during their hasty retreats. These energy weapons are beautifully designed, Insu said to his assistant Yerin. The focusing crystals are perfect. The power cells are incredibly efficient, and the targeting systems are more advanced than anything we have. But? Yerin asked. But they're designed by engineers who never had to improvise, Insu said. Everything is manufactured to exact specifications with perfect materials. There's no tolerance for field modifications or adaptive repairs. What does that mean for us? Insu smiled as he held up a modified Vorthak weapon. It means we can improve them. Human engineering assumes that things will break, parts will be unavailable, and field modifications will be necessary. We design everything to be adaptable. He activated the modified weapon. Instead of firing a focused energy beam, it projected a wide dispersal pattern that could cover a large area. Their weapons are designed to kill individual targets with precision, Insu explained. I've modified this one to disperse industrial foam over a wide area. Now it's a capture weapon instead of a kill weapon. Yerin nodded with understanding. We're turning their tools into our solutions. Exactly. And there's something else I discovered. Insu showed her a communication device he had been working on. I've been studying their computer systems, and I think I've found a way to make their technology think we're allies instead of enemies. How? Their identification systems are incredibly sophisticated but completely logical, Insu said. They identify enemies based on threat assessment algorithms. But what if we don't register as threats? What do you mean? What if their systems classify us as maintenance workers instead of soldiers? Insu asked. What if their weapons think we're repair technicians who are supposed to be working on their equipment? Yerin understood immediately. Their own weapons won't fire on us because they think we're supposed to be there. Exactly. I've been broadcasting maintenance worker identification codes into their networks. As far as their systems know, we're all part of their technical support staff. This discovery led to one of the strangest scenes in military history. When the next group of Vorthak soldiers advanced on the colony, they found humans walking calmly. Among them, apparently performing maintenance work on Vorthak equipment. The alien weapons refused to target the humans because their systems identified them as authorized maintenance personnel. Hyun Woo, who normally managed the colony's food services, made the most unexpected discovery of all. He had been tasked with providing meals for the human defenders and had noticed that some of his spice supplies were running low. We're almost out of hot peppers, he reported to Kai-tae. Should I try to grow more, or can we manage without them? Why? Do you ask? Kite said. Well, I was thinking about the food situation if this conflict continues, Hyunwoo said. And I was wondering about the aliens. Do you think they eat the same kind of food we do? Ki-tae paused. In all the tactical planning, no one had considered alien dietary requirements. That's a good question. Why don't you ask one of them? Hyunwoo approached Captain Morden's position, carrying a tray of food samples. The Vorthak officer watched, suspiciously as the human approached. Captain Morden, Hyunwoo said through. Commander Thaxavel had not slept in 3 days. He stood on his command bridge, watching displays that showed the impossible. His forces were retreating. The Vorthak 7th Legion, undefeated for 3 centuries, was being driven from the battlefield by maintenance workers and cafeteria staff. Sir, his second-in-command approached cautiously. Captain Morden is requesting permission to abandon his position. His soldiers cannot function in the current environment. Thaxavel looked at the tactical feeds from the surface. His elite warriors were stumbling around, coughing and gasping, their armor sealed against the pepper spray that filled the air. Some had removed their helmets, only to be overcome by the capsaicin clouds. Others had retreated to their ships, unable to advance through areas where humans had simply cooked spicy food. How many soldiers do we have left in fighting condition? Thaxavel asked. Approximately 20%, sir. The rest are either trapped in industrial foam, affected by the chemical agents, or have retreated to avoid the bacterial contamination zones. And the humans? Sir, they appear to be celebrating. Through the surveillance cameras, Thaxavel could see humans in the colony's main square. They were not cowering in bunkers or treating wounded soldiers. They were having what appeared to be a community barbecue. Smoke rose from grills where they cooked food. Children played games while adults sat at tables, eating and talking. They're having a party, Thaxavel said in disbelief. In the middle of a war zone. They're having a party. Sir, the communication officer interrupted. We're receiving another transmission from the human colony. Put it through. Ki-tae's face appeared on the screen, but this time he was not alone. Behind him, dozens of humans were visible, all engaged in normal daily activities. Some were working on equipment, others were tending gardens, and a few were playing with children. Commander Thaxavel, Ki-tae said with his usual calm politeness, I hope your soldiers are feeling better. We've prepared some neutralizing agents for the capsaicin exposure if any of them need medical treatment. You are offering to treat soldiers affected by your own chemical weapons? Thaxavel asked. They're not weapons, Ki-tae said. They're cooking ingredients. We use them in our food every day. We had no idea your species would be so sensitive to them. You deployed them against our forces. We defended ourselves with what we had available, Ki-tae corrected. Would you prefer we had used actual weapons? Because we can make those too, if that would make you more comfortable. Thaxavel felt confused by the conversation. What do you want? Nothing, Ki-tae said. We want to live peacefully on our colony. We want to mine asteroids and grow food and raise our children. We want you to leave us alone. The Vorthak Empire does not abandon conquest operations. Then you have a problem, Ki-tae said, because we're not going to surrender, and every time you attack us, we're going to solve the problem you create. It's what humans do. Solve the problem? Commander, you've seen what we can do with industrial equipment and cooking ingredients. Do you really want to find out what we can do if we actually try to invent weapons? Behind Ki-tae, Wu Jin held up a small device. This is a molecular disruptor based on your own energy weapon technology, she called out. But we've improved the efficiency by 400% and added a targeting system that can lock onto Vorthak DNA signatures from orbit. Insu appeared next to her, carrying what looked like a modified communication device. And this can take complete control of your ship's computer systems. We've been studying your technology, and frankly, your cybersecurity is terrible. Yerin joined them, holding a spray bottle. And this contains a new bacterial strain that eats quantum-hardened alloys in about 30 seconds. Much faster than the stuff we used before. Ki-tae turned back to the camera. As you can see, we've been busy, but we'd rather not use any of these things. We'd prefer to go back to mining asteroids and having barbecue parties. Thaxavel stared at the humans on his screen. They were showing him weapons that could destroy his entire fleet, and they were suggesting he leave so they could go back too. Cooking food. You could conquer our empire with those weapons, he said. Why would we want to? Ki-tae asked. We don't want an empire. We just want our little colony on this one planet. Conquering other people sounds like a lot of work and not much fun, but you could force us to submit to your rule. Commander, we're not interested in ruling anybody. We're engineers and farmers and teachers and mechanics. We build things and grow things and fix things. We don't want to control people. Thaxavel felt something he had never experienced before. Respect for an enemy who could defeat him but chose not to. What happens if we leave? You leave, Kite said simply. We'll help repair your equipment and provide supplies for your journey. You can tell your empire that this system is inhabited by beings who prefer peace but are prepared for war. Maybe you can find some uninhabited worlds to colonize instead. And if we return with a larger force? Kite's expression became serious. Commander, we've been studying your technology for 5 days. In that time, we've learned to absorb your energy weapons, disable your armor, crash your computer systems, neutralize your soldiers, and improve your equipment designs. How long do you think it would take us to develop countermeasures for a larger invasion force? Wu Jin spoke up from behind Kite. Actually, we've already started working on that. Show him the orbital platform designs, Minho. Minho appeared, carrying a holographic display. We've designed automated defense platforms that can be built from asteroid materials. Each platform can disable approaching ships using modified versions of your own weapons. We can have 50 platforms operational within 6 months. 60 platforms, corrected Insu. I've improved the manufacturing efficiency. Right, 60 platforms, Minho said. Each one capable of stopping a ship the size of yours. And they're completely automated, so we don't need to risk human lives operating them. Kite turned back to Thaxavel. Do you see our situation, Commander? We don't want to fight, but we're very good at solving problems. If you make us, we can turn this entire star system into a fortress that no fleet could penetrate. But we'd rather spend our time doing more interesting things. Thaxavel looked around his bridge. His officers were listening to every word. For 300 years, the Vorthak Empire had expanded through military conquest, but they had never encountered a species that could out-engineer them in real time while offering them medical assistance and cooking advice. Sir, Intelligence Officer Kexalon said quietly, I recommend we accept their terms. The Empire does not negotiate with primitives, Thaxavel said automatically. Sir, with respect, these are not primitives. These are humans. And humans appear to be something new. Thaxavel considered his options. He could call for reinforcements and attempt a larger invasion. But the humans had demonstrated that they could adapt to any military strategy in a matter of days. They had turned his advantages into disadvantages and his weapons into their tools. Or he could do something no Vorthak commander had done in 3 centuries. He could retreat. Commander, Kite said, I have a personal question. What? Do you enjoy conquest? Does it make you happy to attack other species and take their worlds? The question surprised Thaxavel. No one had ever asked him about his personal feelings regarding military campaigns. It is my duty. It is the way of the Empire. But do you enjoy it? Thaxavel thought about the question. Did he enjoy warfare? Did he find satisfaction in the surrender of defeated enemies? For 300 years, he had followed orders and executed strategies without considering his personal feelings. I do not know, he admitted. Would you like to try something different? Kite asked. We're going to need advisors as we establish diplomatic relations with other species. People who understand galactic politics and military strategy. It would be peaceful work, but it might be interesting. You are offering me employment? I'm offering you an alternative, Kite said. You seem like an intelligent person who's been stuck in a job that doesn't suit you. Maybe it's time for a career change? Thaxavel looked at his command staff. Several of them seemed interested in Kite's suggestion. After centuries of conquest, the idea of peaceful work held unexpected appeal. I need time to consider, Thaxavel said. Of course, Kite replied. Take all the time you need. We'll be here. And Commander, there's no shame in choosing peace over war. It takes more courage to stop fighting than to keep fighting. The transmission ended, leaving Thaxavel alone with his thoughts. For the first time in his long military career, he faced a choice that had nothing to do with tactics or strategy. He could continue the fight and probably lose, or he could do something unprecedented. He could choose peace. Sir, his communication officer reported. "We're receiving surrender requests from multiple ground units. They're asking permission to accept human medical assistance and transportation to the evacuation ships." "Sir," his tactical officer added, "our computer systems are still compromised by the human music broadcasts. Our AI is now attempting to compose its own symphony based on what it learned from Earth classical music." "Sir," his engineering officer reported, "the bacterial contamination has spread to 17 ships. Our maintenance crews are requesting permission to accept human technical assistance in Clearly. 6 months had passed since the impossible happened. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself, carried by quantum communication networks and hyperspace courier ships. The Vorthak 7th Legion, undefeated for 3 centuries, had been defeated by a human mining colony using industrial equipment and cooking spices. On the capital world of the Kalani Republic, President Veltara received the report with disbelief. The Kalani had been paying tribute to the Vorthak Empire for 200 years, ever since their failed rebellion had been crushed by the 3rd Assault Legion. "Are you certain of this information?" she asked her intelligence minister. "Confirmed by 17 independent sources, Madam President," the minister replied. "The humans somehow defeated the Vorthak using non-military technology, industrial, equipment, municipal services, and agricultural systems." President Veltara studied the detailed reports. "They turned a mining laser into a weapon system?" "No, Madam President. They used it as a mining laser, but they aimed it at the ground, under the Vorthak forces instead of at asteroid material. Same tool, different application? And they defeated elite soldiers with food ingredients?" "Capsaicin compounds, yes. Apparently the Vorthak respiratory system cannot process the chemicals that humans use as flavor enhancers." President Veltara laughed for the first time in decades. "They defeated the galaxy's most feared military force with cooking spices." "Yes, Madam President. The humans appear to approach warfare as an engineering problem rather than a military conflict." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place on dozens of worlds. Species that had lived under Vorthak domination for generations, suddenly, saw hope. If the mighty 7th Legion could be defeated by mining equipment and pepper spray, then perhaps the Empire was not invincible after all. On Kepler 442b, Ji-hoon found himself in a position he had never expected. As the colony's administrator, he had been trained to manage mining operations and agricultural development. Now he was humanity's first diplomatic representative to the galactic community. "Sir," Hyojin announced from her expanded communication center, "we're receiving first contact protocols from something called the Galactic Council." "The what?" Ji-hoon asked. "Galactic Council. According to their message, it's an organization of species that coordinates peaceful contact between civilizations. They want to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity." Ji-hoon looked around the colony's administrative building. It had been designed as a simple office complex for a mining operation. Now it was apparently serving as humanity's embassy to the galaxy. "Set up a meeting," he said, "and find Su-jin. If we're going to do diplomacy, we need someone who knows how to talk to people." Su-jin had been the colony's kindergarten teacher before the war. She had a natural talent for mediating disputes between children and explaining complex concepts in simple terms. These skills, it turned out, were exactly what galactic diplomacy required. "The Galactic Council representatives will arrive tomorrow," Su-jin announced at the morning briefing. 3 species: the Kalani, the Zephyrians, and the Crystalline Collective. They want to discuss humanity's entry into galactic civilization. "What do they want from us?" Kaite asked. "According to their preliminary communications, they want to offer us membership in the Council and discuss mutual defense agreements," Su-jin said. "Apparently, several species are interested in learning human problem-solving techniques." Chang Ho, who had arrived from Earth the previous month as humanity's new Secretary of Interstellar Affairs, studied the diplomatic briefings. "This is unprecedented. Usually, first contact involves years of cautious communication before any formal agreements are discussed." "Yes, but usually first contact doesn't involve defeating the galaxy's most powerful military force," Su-jin pointed out. "We've already proven that we can defend ourselves. Now they want to know if we can help them defend themselves." The next day, 3 alien vessels landed at the colony's expanded spaceport. The Kalani ambassador was a tall, graceful being with blue skin and multiple arms. The Zephyrian representative looked like a crystalline bird that sang in musical tones. The Crystalline Collective sent a living gemstone that communicated through color changes. Sujin met them at the landing area, wearing her best professional clothes and carrying a tablet with translation software. She had never imagined that her experience managing parent-teacher conferences would prepare her for interstellar diplomacy. "Welcome to Kepler 442b, she said through the universal translator. "I'm Sujin, representing humanity in these discussions. How was your journey?" The Kalani ambassador, Velnara, seemed surprised by the casual greeting. "Your reputation precedes you, humans. We have heard of your victory over the Vorthak Empire." "Victory seems like a strong word," Sujin said. "We just wanted them to leave us alone. Would you like to see our colony? I think you'll find our approach to development interesting." As they toured the facilities, the alien representatives were amazed by what they saw. The humans had not built a military fortress or a heavily defended installation. Instead, they had created a thriving community, with schools, parks, workshops, and farms. "Where are your weapons?" asked the Zephyrian representative, whose name translated as "wind song through crystal valleys." "We don't really have weapons," Dae-hyun explained as he showed them the power generation facility. "We have tools that can be used as weapons if necessary. This fusion reactor provides clean energy for the colony, but it could also power defensive systems if we needed them." "You defeated the Vorthak with tools?" Velnara asked. "We solved the problems they created," Kite said. "They brought energy weapons, so we built energy absorption systems. They landed soldiers, so we modified the landing zone. They deployed armor, so we found ways to neutralize armor. It's basic engineering." The Crystalline Collective representative changed colors rapidly, which the translator interpreted as excitement. "Your species approaches conflict as a design challenge." "Exactly," Kite said. "Every problem has a solution. Sometimes you have to be creative, but there's always a way." That evening, the diplomatic discussions began in earnest. The aliens wanted to understand human capabilities and intentions. The humans wanted to understand galactic politics and the broader implications of their actions. "The Vorthak Empire is in chaos," Velnara explained. "Your victory has inspired rebellions on 17 worlds. Several species have declared independence and are requesting assistance in defending themselves." "What kind of assistance?" Chang Ho asked. "Military advisors, weapons technology, defense strategies." Windsong Through Crystal Valleys sang a melody that translated as concern. "They want to learn how to fight like humans." Sujin frowned. "We're not interested in teaching people how to fight. We're interested in teaching people how to solve problems." "Is there a difference?" the Crystalline Collective representative asked, its surface shifting through shades of blue and green. "Absolutely," Sujin said. "Fighting assumes that conflict is necessary. Problem-solving looks for ways to avoid conflict while achieving your goals." "Explain," Velnara requested. Chang Ho activated a holographic display showing the recent conflict. "The Vorthak attacked us with overwhelming force. A military response would have been to build bigger weapons and fight back. Instead, we looked at the problem they created and found non-violent solutions." "Non-violent?" "Windsong Through Crystal Valleys" expressed confusion. "You defeated their army." "We neutralized their army," Kite corrected. "We trapped them in foam, made them slip on frictionless surfaces, and made them uncomfortable with food seasonings. Very few Vorthak were actually injured. We offered medical treatment to their soldiers," Yoon-jung added. "And we helped repair their equipment when they agreed to leave." The alien representatives exchanged glances. This was not how wars were supposed to work. "Would you be willing to share these techniques with other species?" Velnara asked. "Of course," Chang Ho said. "But we'd want to share the whole approach, not just the techniques. Problem-solving, adaptation, creative thinking, peaceful solutions. All of it." "What would you require in return?" "Nothing," Sujin said. "Well, except maybe some help understanding galactic civilization. We're new to all this." Over the following weeks, Chang Ho and his team negotiated humanity's entry into the galactic community. The agreements were unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of military alliances or trade agreements, humanity offered to serve as consultants and advisors to species seeking independence from the Vorthak Empire. We'll help you solve your problems, Chang Ho explained to the Galactic Council. But we won't solve them for you. We'll teach you how to think about problems differently, how to use your existing resources creatively, and how to find solutions that work for your specific situation. The first requests for assistance came from the Kalani Republic. President Veltara wanted human advisors to help design defense systems that could deter Vorthak retaliation without provoking a larger conflict. Kite led the first human advisory mission to Kalani space. His team consisted of engineers, technicians, and problem solvers from the mining colony. They were not military experts, but they were human experts, and that was what mattered. Show us your industrial capabilities, Kite said to the Kalani engineers. What do you manufacture? What tools do you have? What